with me again today. So, hey, Nancy, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Linda. And thank you so much for letting me come back and play and have a good time with you.
I know it's always so fun. This has turned out to be such a fun idea. We started this back in the summer of, alternating and coming in, you coming in once a month. I luck out this month we get you twice. Excuse me. But anyway, it's just been really fun. So tell me just a little bit. Let's fill in. So I know you're getting ready to leave and go
Mhm.
what to Florida for a month. Is that where you're going?
Well, probably not for a whole month, but yes, I get to go and spend time with my son and his wife and my precious little granddaughter who's going to be turning 4 the 1st of January. And so I'll get to enjoy Christmas and a birthday celebration. Jesus'
Woo.
birthday and then Leska's birthday. So
Yes, that sounds awesome. 4 years old is so fun. I mean, it's just excuse me. Um, they're just a fun age. So Christmas ought to
mhm.
be really special.
Yes, it will. We love having tea parties, but we use water for our tea parties.
Oh,
Parties. Yeah. So, but yes,
probably a good idea. That way, if it spills, nothing is really hurt, right?
yes, it's pretend tea. Yes. Mhm.
Yes. I would do we put our pinky
Oh,
out?
yes, of course you have to put Pinky up.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, well, we're in our favorite time of the year. As Christians, well, actually, I will say that Easter is my favorite because what it stands for.
Mhm.
But we couldn't have Easter without Christmas. So I love Christmas and Easter, my favorite holidays. And you were saying, Nancy, that this is the first year since you're going to be gone that you didn't decorate. That feels kind of strange, I bet, after however many years.
I know about 50 something years, and it reminded me of the movie Christmas with the Cranks, but I'm still celebrating Christmas.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
just in a different location.
Yes. Yes.
Because it can be Christmas in our hearts, no matter what we're doing. And that is a great segue into our topic for today, which is joy. And
Mhm.
I really love, first of all, I love the word joy and I love what joy is.
Mhm.
So, Nancy, why don't you start us off and tell us kind of what you think about joy? Is it something that you can have all the time or is it just every now and then?
Well, Delinda, you know that I'm a researcher. And so when we were talking about this subject, I definitely had to look up some things about joy. And so the definition of joy is a deep feeling or condition of happiness or contentment, something that is causing such a feeling, a source of happiness, an outward show of pleasure or delight and rejoicing. But also, I had to look and see now that's what the dictionary says. But also, I had to find out what the Bible was talking about with joy. And the definition says that joy is a feeling of good pleasure and happiness that is dependent on who Jesus is rather than on who we are or what is happening around us. And joy comes from the Holy Spirit and abiding in God's presence and from hope in His Word. And then you and I both know, um, joy is the second fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. But I think it's really interesting when we talk about, even the fruits of the Spirit, they have to grow before they come to fruition. And that's the same with joy. Joy just all of a sudden just doesn't pop up. We have to nurture, that fruit. We have to nurture that relationship with the Lord and with Jesus. And then we also know that the joy is our strength. I mean, it's really, you're talking about um, the times when we just really feel pewy, just really feel like we're just not going to really make it, or we are drowning sometimes in life. That's when we get to stop and we get to tap in to the presence of the Lord and just to be able to become renewed, refreshed, and restored. And then guess what? Joy just starts coming about. And it's the little things of life, Delinda. You know this too. I mean, there's the little things that bring us so much joy that other people probably look at us and go, "Really?" But we're going, "Yes, yes." I just, it brings me so much joy to do little deeds of kindness, for others, or and then just to do the things that we know that make God smile. At the end of the day, we can just say, Lord, did I make you smile today? And does not bring joy to even him and for us? But something my mother, in her birthday was yesterday, she would have been 107, but she taught me over 40 years ago, Delinda, about joy. And she gave me this pretty little heart, and it had joy embroidered on it. And she said, this is what joy stands for. She said, J is for Jesus, O is for others, and Y is for you. And she said, and if you keep them in that order, she said, your joy will continually be there and increase. And so, it's not just this time of year that we talk about joy, and it's year round, but especially when we get to have those sweet little privileges, of experiencing joy with friends and family, or some people, especially. I've had a lot of friends who've lost spouses this year, including myself. And, this is a first for a lot of people. And so you think, well, where are they going to find joy? Where are they going to find happiness? And amongst the tears of, going through continuing grief and sadness, the joy will shine. The joy will come through if we have our hearts and our minds focused where they need to be. So anyways, was that what you wanted me to tell you about joy, Linda?
Oh, I love that. Well, and I think sometimes we confuse happy with joyful. Happy, I think, and I looked up some things as well. But happy is more about your circumstances. Oh, I'm so happy I got to go have coffee with my friend today or something. So happy is more about the circumstances, but joy is that permeating about who we are. And as you said, our relationship with the Lord, when we are really connected with him and the closer we draw to him, the joy just overflows. And then it makes a difference to all the people that are around us. I'm going to give a couple of verses because I really love these, but Luke 2:10 was, I bring you good news of great joy, which is the announcement of Jesus, right? And you said earlier, the Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is your strength. There's a little tune. I was going to sing that this morning. My voice is a little weird. So no, but the joy of the Lord is my strength. And it's like, even just singing that little chorus, I don't know, just that makes me happy because I already have the joy. And Jesus said in John 15:11, I've told you this so that my joy may be in you. So it's having the continual the joy no matter what's going on. You can be it can be a season of your life that you're going through a lot, but you can still have the joy. And we talked last week about excuse me, about the peace. You can keep the peace of Christ and have the joy at the same time as you're going through other things, because they are not dependent on what's happening around us. So y'all excuse me, I have a little cold thing going on today. But and then in James, count it all joy when you're going through trials. Now, he didn't say if you go through trials, when you go through trials, because you're going to have them. And sometimes those trials are right now during this season. As you were saying, Nancy, it's going to be a tough year for a lot of people who've had circumstances during this time of year, either this year or last year in the past. But if you could just, as you draw closer to Jesus, your joy can just keep with you. That's what gives you your strength to make it through. Would you agree?
Absolutely, Delinda. And, when you're talking about too, happiness and, sadness, being sad or happy, again, is a choice too. I mean, circumstances do have a lot of influence in all things, but, we don't have to stay in that state of being. And that's one of the things. We're human, and we're going to go through all those different emotions, those different states of being. But, at the end, you just have to be able to know what our really resource is. Where does that joy and that happiness and that peace come from? And it's that relationship with knowing the Lord and keeping that focus. I mean, when we think about Jesus and we love celebrating, I agree with you too. I love Christmas and Easter too. But God gave his only son so that we would be able to have God. And so, he gave so that we could have. And so, I think that's for Christmas too, we get, sometimes really caught up in decorating and cooking and eating and partying and gifts and all those things. But I think really keeping, the focus on why we are celebrating, and we can have that joy of our salvation. We can have that focus of the joy of the salvation that we get to have is the best gift ever that we could ever receive. And so, I think when you talk about joy, and it does always include, I think it includes others, whether it's just God, where it's between us and God and our relationship and what we're doing together, or our relationship with others that God has allowed in our lives, and being able to put into practice, because everything in this life is practice. Those little things
True.
that we get to do and be able to help somebody else. And you know what, we teach children to be not selfish, to share and to do all those types of things. And that's the same for us too. We have to search our hearts. We have to look and see inside and see, am I being selfish? Am I wanting something just my own way? Or am I putting everybody else's, their needs, first and foremost? Now, I'm not talking about ignoring your self-care and ignoring, taking care of what God has entrusted to us. But I think this is a great time of year to look for opportunities to be able to share with others that, yes, it can nurture some joy in their lives too. So again, we talked about it, the fruits, they have to grow before they, and they're always, in that process of growing and, harvesting and growing and harvesting and growing. And that's called our journey of life.
Absolutely. And I think too, I don't know about you. I know you're from the South. So my parents were from the South. And I just, I grew up in the Baptist church, and there's a lot of good things about that, but there's some not so good things about that. But I never really saw joyful Christians. They were just grumpy and just, I don't know what you even call it. It's like, who would even want to be a Christian if that's what having Jesus is? And it was such a holier than thou kind of attitude. And I know that is not of the Lord. So, but it took a long time, for me to, I did, because became a Christian as a young girl. And I just always loved Jesus. I mean, I just had that. He was gracious to give that to me early. But I'd look around, it's like, what's the matter with you people? We're supposed to be, we're supposed to be joyful and sharing the joy and the love, because people are watching us. Every day they're watching, how do we handle things? What do we do? Do we treat others well? If you're yelling at a server in a restaurant, that is not like Jesus. We do not. But just being able to share when that joy, when your relationship, when you're walking with the Lord and you're so close, and that's been my goal this year. I mean, it's really to grow closer and closer to him, to know and take on more of his character, because I got a lot of bad that I don't need to do, but the closer that I walk with him. And so hopefully, as we do that, his joy, like you say, the fruit grows, and we have more to share with others, because we can't keep it inside. When you're allowing the Holy Spirit to kind of take over and let that joy come out, it just spills over other people. And that's when they ask you the question, like, how do you do it? Why are you so, then they'll always say, why are you so happy? Say, or how could you do that? Because they're watching our walk. And it's so easy. Well, it's Jesus, it's easy to give that answer.
And it's the truth. It is the truth. And when you said that about people's, that was one of the things too that I noticed, because I didn't come to know the Lord until I was 18. And so, but I would wonder the same thing. Why do people look the same way they go in and when they come out? And I'm sitting there going, should people not just really express? And I think it's the weight of the world. It's the weight of so many things that people have to learn, and how to release, and just how to get, let things go. And just like you were just talking about, we want to receive more of the Lord. We want to continually receive everything that he has for us. And it's multitasking. It's for our good and for his glory and for the good of others. And so when we can keep that mindset and that heart attitude on why we are receiving all these amazing blessings of, good health, of having more than enough, to be a good steward, to have things to share, to again, look for opportunities, and they come, just like you said. You can be, it's like a gentleman working on the road the other day, and I was driving down, and they've been doing road construction and everything. And I rolled my window down. I said, "Thank you so much for filling in that hole. Y'all did a great job." And this man's face just smiled, and he said, "Thank you." And I thought, that took 2 seconds to do.
Yeah.
And just, I think we can take that time instead of, when we could be yelling about things and stuff that are going on, and but taking and looking for those little opportunities to bring that little gift of joy. And it could be a little gift of joy to give somebody also. So
Yeah, I think so too. That's a, excuse me, that's a, sorry. The fact that you did that, I mean, that is so cool. I bet he's had people stop him and say, "What's up? Why is this taking you guys so long? You're holding up the traffic." There's got to be people that would say that. And so probably when you said thank you, he probably like, "Oh my gosh, somebody actually appreciates me." So, and I think a lot of times there are many people out there who nobody really says anything positive to them. So anytime that we can, I think we should, not pass up, like you say, not pass up those opportunities to share a little joy, share a little, positive thoughts. Basically, we're sharing a little Jesus. We may not be saying it at that moment, but that's what we're doing.
It is. It really is. And, and we always get tested too. I mean, there's been times, when I've gone to, either pick up something or whatever, and it wasn't right or whatever. And the poor little person that's sales clerk or whatever, it's not their fault. It's technology or whatever. But, again, just like you said, we have that choice and that opportunity to just, be kind to them, and not, take out our frustrations, or, I think, the Lord allows things, and I laugh at myself all the time. The other day, I drove a whole circle. I was trying to get my car inspected, and I went from one place to the other, and it was all because of AI, Delinda, because I called the place and to find out if to have an inspection done, and I only got AI. I couldn't talk to a person. So they said, "Yes, we do inspections, and I got there, and the guy wasn't there. It's like, AI told me you were. But those are those things too. Can you get bent out of shape? Sure. But at the end of the day, I think we get to go through this little tests and those little trials and things, just to see how we prioritize, and what really makes a difference. So, and I know there'll be more to come.
And I love what you said, because my theme of my life, actually, for the last at least maybe 15 years or 20, has been about choices. Because it's so, I mean, truly there is power that when you realize, that we have a choice on how we treat people. We have a choice to, spread the joy. We have a choice to say mean things or nice things. And when we can also, part of that, I think, is owning up to those choices. my big one has always been, so I think I've told this story. I know Kathy's heard it. I don't know if anybody else has it. I'm not sure, Nancy. So back a while back when I was doing some acting and stuff in LA. So you go to a whole lot of auditions, okay? So you have a whole lot of no's before you actually get something that you get to do. So I had gone to this particular audition, and what they were looking for was not me. Okay. They were looking for the tall, skinny, voluptuous, whatever. And even when I was younger, I was not that. I mean, I'm 5'4" for Pete's sake. So I can never be the 5, 6, or 7 lady. So I go, and of course, I've always been heavier than what I want to be. That was in the past. But anyway, so my nephew, we were sharing an apartment over in LA. And I came in and I was grousing, da 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 da. I'm just too big, and I don't fit their thing. And he said to me, "Well, it's your own fault." And I said, "What? How dare you say that to me?" And he says, and then he puts on this little attitude. He says, "Well, nobody puts that brownie in your mouth." Let me just say, he has no filter. I love him, but he has no filter. But I thought about that. It took me about 2 years. I kept putting that through my mind and realizing that it really, my health, my weight, all of that is my own choice. I can choose to eat the brownie or not. I can choose to eat more healthy. I can choose to exercise. I can choose to drink my water or not. It's not it. It's not anybody else's fault. But boy, I didn't realize that I hadn't owned that.
Yeah.
So as we own our choices, we find actually so much more freedom of
Mhm.
that, and how we go about every day. Are we spreading the joy? Back to our original subject.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I think it's very freeing to own those choices and realize that we may not can control what's happening in the world any more than we could when the pandemic was on, right? But it's
Mhm.
what we did during that time and coming out of it. And a lot of people are still living with those repercussions.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing about that? What is your attitude? Have you shifted your thinking to where the world is today? Because if you're still griping and whining about what all changed during there, it's just a waste of time, because we can't go back and change it.
No, and you're wasting today. Today
Yeah.
is, I mean, just like you said, choices. Today I can choose whether I want to be grumpy or be grateful. G or G, grumpy or grateful.
Gigi.
And yeah. And so, I want to be grateful because, every single breath, every single heartbeat, every single thing that people take for granted, that we all take for granted, is something that, life is very precious. And when I'm out in traffic and out and with bunches of people and everything, and getting ready to be on a, airport and airplane, stuff like that, I am always fascinated, Delinda. I go look at people and go, Lord, you created every single one, and you want every single one of these people to know and love you and follow you all the way to heaven. And it just is almost so overwhelming sometimes, but it is, I think, oh my gosh, when we say how great is our God, all you gotta do is just stop and look around and just think, every heartbeat, every breath, everything, is God's his great, just his majesty, and he's exorbitant. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Mhm.
So I do. I just, and I love that, because the truth is, when you're grateful, you can't be grumpy.
You can't.
You can't be grousing and being grateful at the same time.
No,
Any
no,
more than you fear and faith cannot be in the same space. You're
no.
either trusting and living in faith, or you're being fearful, and that's not trusting. So
And most of us are on the seesaw, and it's up
yeah,
and down, up and down. But you know what? We're human, and God knows it, and He knows how He made us. And but we again get to choose if we're gonna how long we're gonna stay bent out of shape about something, or how and it's just even the thing with going into all kinds of environments, especially with relatives and things like that. And I'm so grateful that God puts some borders and protection around us. And isn't it amazing how he weeds some people out of your life that you're going, oh, you know, thank you.
Yeah, and when that happens, being willing to release it, because
Mhm.
sometimes those relationships are toxic.
Yeah.
Sometimes, whatever. And a lot of times, and this was a harder one for me, is really like some relationships are just for a season. They're
Mhm.
not intended to be for your whole life. And it's hurtful sometimes to lose those people, or
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
people go their different ways or whatever that is. It doesn't mean you don't like them anymore or don't love them anymore, but
Mhm.
just your lives are kind of gone in different paths, and just being grateful for the relationship in the first place,
Yeah.
even though you've had to release it maybe.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
it is.
well,
Um,
we're at the top of the hour. It always goes so fast, right? And my doggy little Gabby's barking because she hears somebody outside. So
she's the
if y'all
guard dog.
hearing Gabby,
Yeah.
huh?
She's the guard dog.
She's
She's
the
guarding
guard
me.
dog. That's
Mhm.
right. So, um, a couple just little thoughts for you guys. Joy doesn't wait for perfect moments, it
Mhm.
creates them. Thought that was pretty good. And
Mhm.
of course, where Jesus is, the joy is. And that's I've been doing a Bible reading plan with Tara Lee Cobble. I don't know if you're familiar with her. But that is her phrase. She ends she does a little mini commentary after each day's reading. And she always ends it with, and he's where the joy is. And
Yeah.
I love that. And it's always, let's take it back to the bottom line is that's where the joy is. He is that. So, any last thought, Nancy, before we sign off here?
Oh my goodness. I just hope that you have an amazing, wonderful Christmas celebration and beginning of 2026, Delinda, and helping people to remember just to slow down and enjoy. Here's enjoy, but have the joy and be the joy. We can have it so we can be it to others and people that we cross paths with. So again, Jesus, others, and you, but also it is in the presence of the Holy Spirit. And if you want more of it, then spend more time in his presence.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Again, I love that. For those of y'all listening either today, if you're on here now, or if you're watching later, be watching for in 2 weeks from today. We're going to be discussing, there'll be a couple of the hosts on here discussing your word of intention for the year. So be thinking about that. I'm not going to reveal mine until the end, until that day. So I'm holding back. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I want to share the word, but since the Lord finally told me what it is, do you ever like I had a couple of them? Oh, this would be really good. I'm going to hear, but I think I've landed on what I feel He's really talking to me about. So it'll be a fun morning talk about the word of intention and why do you do it and why do you need it and does it make any difference anyway? And I really believe it does. So you have yours yet? You don't have to share it, but
I do have it.
ooh, yay. You want to share it? No,
I
not yet.
do. Is it okay?
Yeah, you can share yours. I'm not sharing mine, but you can share yours.
My word is trust.
Oh, love that. What a wonderful word.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's and if you do that, your whole life will come together like it's supposed to, right?
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
we're trusting every day. So
Yeah.
love that. Well, thank y'all for being here as always. And as I've been talking about all year, just remember that just as Jesus chose the 12 disciples, he also has chosen you. You are
Mhm.
chosen. You are his child, and he has great plans for you. He has plans to just give you more joy. He has set you apart for his glory, and so bask in that. And then now you get to make a choice. Are you going to follow him and live the life that he's already designed for you? It's a choice, as we talked about. So thank you so much. Bye, everybody. I'll be on next week, so I don't have to Merry Christmas, but I'll be saying it again next week. And
That'd be good.
have a wonderful, safe trip, Nancy. And thanks for being here. Just love you
Thank
so
you.
much. Bye, everybody. Thanks for